You probably have more data about your business than you realize. But here's the real question. Is any of it actually changing the decisions that you're making? Because collecting data and being data driven are two very different things. And today we're going to talk about what that difference is. Hello, everyone, and welcome to CLDA Final Mile Fridays. If you're a longtime member of the CLDA community, welcome back. And if you're discovering us for the very first time, we're so glad that you're here. I'm Lorena Camargo, president of the CLDA, the Customized Logistics and Delivery Association, and I'm your host for this series. At CLDA, we're all about bringing together the people, ideas, and conversations that move our industry forward. And Final Mile Fridays is another way that we're doing that. So thank you for spending part of your Friday with us. Each week, we're sitting down with industry leaders and experts to talk about the issues that matter to the final mile business. And today we're talking about how carriers can move beyond simply collecting data and actually use it to make better business decisions. And to help us explore that, I'm excited to welcome Arthur Axelrad from Dispatch Science. Dispatch Science works with carriers across North America, helping them leverage technology, reporting, and AI to gain better visibility into their operations and make smarter business decisions. And what final mile carrier doesn't want to make smarter business decisions, right? So, Arthur, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
I'm well. I'm fine, Lorena. Thanks for having me. Well, it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we dive into today's topic, I'd love for our audience to get to know you a little bit better. Can you tell us a little more about your journey and what ultimately led you to start Dispatch Science?
Sure, sure. Thank you for that. Thanks for the intro. So the journey started for me personally, really from the very first jobs I started doing. Young guy in his 20s and really focused on technology. From the start, I always worked for technology and software companies and was always focused on uh, providing ways for small, medium businesses to optimize and improve their processes, really using technology to leverage their opportunities and have find competitive advantage. So I was doing that for a number of years in ERP and in other parts of the supply chain, and got to working with my co-founder Alex Proto, and together we were doing various types of custom work when one of our customers, a courier company, asked us to help him improve his business, improve his operations. And interestingly enough, the dispatch science journey started at the CLDA. So for this customer, we went to the CLDA and helped him analyze and look at the different technology that was available in the market, and realized, came to the conclusion that at that time back then, there were not any modern offerings for carriers. And that's what led us to say, there's an opportunity here. We can leverage what we know about technology and come to the market with something new.
I love to hear that because, CLDA is like that unifying voice for the final mile in so many ways. And that's why we're all part of CLDA. We're all looking for those solutions and we value your partnership and you guys giving us this expertise and insight. So happy to hear that. All right, so let's get started with the meat and potatoes of this because I hear the term data driven all the time. It's all over my sales materials and I know I'm not the only one. But you like having that, you're the subject matter expert. What does it actually look like in a final mile company? What's the difference between companies that are collecting a lot of information and actually using it to run your business better?
So, okay, there's a lot to that in the sense that, if you look at companies like yourselves, on a very, very simplified basis, what you're doing is delivering a parcel, delivering a package. You're fulfilling a delivery. You're moving some products from A to B. But if you think about what surrounds that, the type of information and decisions that are needed to track and manage all the information as it relates to the order, the customer information, the rates, the prices, the information of every single person that might have touched the order, might have added information to it, changed the price, and then had to take a decision on how to fulfill it, who's going to pick it up, who's going to dispatch it, getting it scanned, taking a photo. All those things leave like a huge amount of data in their wake. And from a being data driven perspective, the answer really is to what degree is a company set up, structured, and organized to keep track of all that information, and then more importantly, to leverage it so they can be better, more efficient, and essentially optimize what they're doing to be more competitive.
Nice. And so as entrepreneurs, we tend to rely on our instinct. I feel like that's kind of like a trait in, going into business for yourself. In your opinion, what would you say, like, what are the signs that a business is relying more on instinct than actual data, like hard information?
Well, I'd say there's a few factors. One is have they been successful in organizing themselves in a way to make that data visible and accessible to the people taking decisions? So usually if someone's taking decisions based on instinct, it's because they don't have at their fingertips in a fashion the data that they need to take a better decision. And so without having concrete facts, something like right in front of you, you're obviously going to go with your next best tool, which is your gut and the gut of an experience of your team. So people will take those decisions, and in a perfect world, what you want to do is marry the two, right? Is find ways to harness that data, collect it, give yourselves the right tools so that you can visualize it, and put all that information now in the hands of the people trusted to take those decisions.
Do you see this difference across companies of different sizes?
Well, yes and no, in the sense that, like, to some degree, size doesn't matter. So if you're a company with 10 vehicles or 1,000 vehicles in this industry, you're both still running on razor thin margins. So from an importance perspective, I think that it's important for carriers to recognize and not sort of get into the trap of saying, "Oh, I'm too small to pay attention to data," or to try to implement tools that will help me capture data and leverage it. So I mean, generally what differentiates at this level those smaller companies and larger companies is just going to be their the size of their teams and their pocketbooks, right? Like, have they been able to make those investments and equip themselves and equip their people with the tools to make and take those better decisions?
I appreciate you mentioning that because not probably like 90% of the final mile companies are in that small to mid-size range. So when people hear like data driven business intelligence, they think like my operation's too small. I don't need to rely on a dashboard. I kind of know what my operation's all about. What advice would you give them?
Well, I would say that you'd be surprised, and you're also not going to be able to scale as much as your competitor next to you, who is getting organized, getting that data set up in a way, structured in a way that they can visualize it and use it to take decisions. I mean, the biggest problem today is not that there's not enough data; it's the opposite. There's too much data, and leaders are essentially forced today to try to get piles of reports that they have to read through, and the challenge you can get into quite easily is kind of like analysis paralysis, where you're now trying to pour through all of this information, and it's not obvious how to take clear action. And I think that's kind of what people should be looking at to judge what they should do strategically in terms of managing and leveraging that data for growth. My advice would be to pick the metrics that matter, to you. Is it if the number one thing you want to focus on is, let's say, profitability, then what you want to do is start thinking about the different metrics you have to track your costs and your productivity. If your number one metric is, let's say, retention, then you might want to focus more on data that relates more to tracking and measuring the service quality of the deliveries. Your on-time performance, damages, claims, things like that. If as a company your metric and what you really want to drive through is growth, then the metrics you want to think about are much more along the lines of capacity utilization, scalability. So those are all different things, and so I guess the advice would be pick one to start, and then work backwards from there to say, what data do I have, or what data do I need, and in order to now be able to take a better decision to improve that metric.
Yeah, absolutely. And growth really is the theme behind this series. So when people think of growth, obviously they think of more deliveries. Absolutely true.
Yeah.
But sometimes that requires more drivers, and there's always like a driver shortage. I feel like it ebbs and flows. So route optimization, could you talk to us a little bit more about that? I know you mentioned capacity. Just because you get like a whole new contract, it doesn't mean you need to go out and get like another 40 drivers, right? How would you leverage technology for your existing capacity?
I'm glad you mentioned route optimization, because if you think about it, that's one of the capabilities that most needs and leverages data. So what does route optimization essentially do? It looks at the driver in its simplest form, the driver and his current position, and then it looks at the sequence, not just the sequence, but it looks at the load, the stops that the driver has to do in a day, and then it looks at the position of all of those different pickups and deliveries, and if it's a good one, it'll also look into the different pickup and delivery windows, and some of the other constraints that are important for a driver. And it's going to use all that information, all that data, to create an optimal route. So route optimization requires data. That's the first thing. And to do it well and right, well, you're going to want something that can integrate route optimization with your business's data. So it's not in the delivery world, it's not really sufficient to just say, oh yeah, give me the optimal sequence of these 10 stops. You really want route optimization to be able to also recognize that, yeah, there's these 10 stops, but stop 3 can't be picked up before 10, and stop 9 needs to be delivered by 1. And so that kind of information is what modern tools like ours help companies do, and leverage and use the data to achieve that objective.
Mhm. And on that, one of the things I learned the hard way early on was, we just expect when we hear route optimization, just like click a few buttons, right? But it really starts with like the information like you put in. Like, can you talk to us a little bit more about that? Like, even when you're, I mean, pretty simple, like entering a driver, like entering customer information. Like, it's not just click a few buttons, because the computer is just going to go by like what you input. So what advice would you give, to those carriers, like from the very beginning, not just, clicking the few buttons, like from starting the process?
Well, I guess the advice that I would give to carriers that are starting the process is to look at how well they have structured and gotten their hands on the different data elements that are required to make up a really good optimized route, but also to leverage that optimized route with what it will bring them. So, for example, you might have a very optimal route, but you haven't given the system the information that it needs to now communicate its results, communicate its findings to your customers. So if you've kind of done your homework and you've dotted your I's and crossed your T's, the system should now be able to start sending notifications to your customers, advising them, for example, of the ETA of the driver. So that ETA is going to get delivered by either, let's say, a text message or an email. And what that does is it now saves your customer service from getting an inbound, where's my order phone call. So right there in one shot, you've improved your customer satisfaction. You've minimized your back office operating costs, right? You don't need to now have someone who's there standing by and ready to jump on the phone and give that information. And you've just given your customer that much more modern, sophisticated user experience that they expect today. So I guess those are some of the key things that I would say are factors when you think about route optimization.
Right. And sometimes it's something again like human error, right? Where you're setting up a driver and you put car instead of cargo van. And so then like the system won't know that they could dispatch their order to that driver. And we always want to blame technology. I know that's me sometimes, but it's like it always starts with human error, even in those instances.
Well, I mean, I will say that with experience, there's a couple of factors. I mean, with experience, platforms like ours have enabled the features that make it harder for people to make some of those errors. They've enabled the features that can allow you, for example, to say, you know what, an order that can be delivered by a car can also be delivered by a cargo van. So it could still work, and the system can also provide notifications and alerts now to the dispatcher with things like, are you sure you want to do this because it doesn't follow the normal pattern, and those types of warnings. So I mean, yes, there's always going to be some level of error where you're gonna have to live with the impact. But there are today, I would say, a lot of modern tools that make systems more intuitive and I guess more tolerant.
Okay. Yeah. Well, my biggest takeaway from this part is stop blaming the computer or the system for stuff I didn't input properly. Now, I know many CLDA members are on your platform. So, without naming names, could you give us an example of a carrier using data to uncover an operational problem or an opportunity they might have recognized otherwise?
Sure. So some examples could be that you're using data to recognize seasonality changes in customer orders. So perhaps, for example, you're looking at data of a customer's deliveries over a large enough horizon, let's say 6 months or a year, and the data now shows you that on the third Thursday or Friday of every month, there's a dip in volume. That data now allows you to identify that condition is happening, and either contact the customer and inquire why that's happening, to perhaps learn that yes, it's in fact going to be a consistent pattern in their business that allows you to plan better the number of drivers that you're going to have on those days, and now not have drivers that are either running too light or not getting used and getting disappointed, and then perhaps leaving you. So that's one example. Would be I would say, yeah, looking at the seasonality shifts, volume shifts. Another example would be looking at your exception codes, your error reporting, and finding patterns there where it turns out that as an example, a particular driver is always having a problem with a delivery at a particular client's warehouse, and so you find out that this driver was trying to do these deliveries without a lift gate, and he should have had one. Those types of things to identify and spot trends and patterns that allow you to take action. That's really, I guess, the key thing of seeing customers do that kind of thing.
Now, we can't really have a conversation about data without talking about AI. That still scares some people. Um, and there's so many conversations about it, but with your expertise, where do you see AI generally helping final mile carriers make better decisions today?
I would say there's like AI can help predict service exceptions. That's one. So it can help spot delays before they happen, and therefore save you from reduce firefighting efforts. So that's one. Uh, AI can automate customer communications very efficiently. So that gives you the ability to proactively send updates and emails before something happens. AI can also do things like accelerate or simplify a lot of workflow processes. So it can take care of your appointment confirmations. It can take care of more status updates. What else? The other one is AI can, for example, automatically analyze photos, your PODs, and do some cool things. Perhaps you want to like look at a POD and automatically read or extract the bill of lading number, or maybe you're in the pharmaceutical medical space and you want the AI to automatically extract, let's say, an RX number or a tote reference. Maybe you want to use AI just to tell you that the box in the photo is damaged, and identify that damage ahead of time, so you can take action proactively. Again, a few examples, but I can go on and on. I mean, there's AI is going to be a very big game changer in every industry for sure, but certainly also in the last mile. And I think that one of the first places that people are going to be able to leverage it is in reducing a lot of their administrative manual tasks. So, think about all of that reconciliation that people are often doing. A lot of the verification, checking orders and costs, and driver settlements and commissions, measuring one against the other. I think AI is going to do an amazing job of taking over at that level as well.
Wow, thanks for describing a lot of the advantages, especially because it's not just about like making like the order entry process easier or even like submitting PODs. You mentioned a lot of things specifically with exceptions, because us carriers, we have a plan for when things go well, but we also have to have a plan for when things don't go well. So it's nice to know that we could rely on AI to even like flag those exceptions so that then like a human dispatcher could step in.
I think that the one thing that we didn't spend too much time talking about that's worth mentioning is the from a data perspective, what companies should do is to think about the metrics that they want to measure and figure out for them the metrics that are kind of most important. Top five in my mind would be like on-time delivery, cost per delivery, driver productivity, customer satisfaction, and looking at the efficiency of the routes, and then take each one of those and pick the one that they want to go with, and then start by just trying to measure that. I think that's answering the question you asked me earlier about where to start. I think that's for sure one place to start.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of great KPIs. Now, speaking on that, business owners, most that I know are relying on dashboards. So, how would you leverage, like, I know there's integrations now between like your dispatching software, your TMS, with even your accounting software. Do you have any advice on that, on like what metrics, like from that standpoint, carriers should be looking at?
I do, for sure, and I would tell you that that's been one of the big blocks for dispatch science. One of the big areas of focus for us, over the last couple of years, is recognizing that none of these systems run like in isolation. There's you as a carrier are still a part of your customer supply chain. You're an extension of it, and everybody has different systems. They have their warehouse system, their point of sale system. You have your own accounting system. So there's all of these different systems, and the reality is that they need to communicate, they need to talk, and they need to share information and share data. And so what we've done is focus on building out some capabilities around really simplifying the management of all of that. We built a product called Data Bridge that connects systems together. It helps partners collaborate, and it shares data in real time. We know that a lot of people have complained and dealt with struggles of just being able to now access data from other sources. So we built a synchronization tool that allows them to, however they like, have their own data at their fingertips, so they can use it for their own reporting or sharing it however they need. And then we also built Data Hive, which is a tool and a platform for dashboards and visualizations, and creating reports that make it easy to really turn data into action.
So going back to like all the data that you mentioned is available, it could be easy to get overwhelmed. Do you have any advice of like, maybe between like the top layer to middle management, like what metrics should each layer be looking at?
Well, with whatever data you do decide to look at, as you're looking at it, what you want to ask yourself is, what will I do with this information? How will this information help me take a decision or a better decision? And it's important to differentiate between like vanity metrics, where you're looking at data, and it's like, oh yeah, we had 1,000 deliveries, or today we had 300 drivers doing deliveries. If you're not going to use that data to do something different tomorrow, then you're measuring the wrong thing. You need to ask yourself, whatever you're going to do, look at something, and then understand from that data, from that information, how will it help you tomorrow? What will you do different? So that's the first place to start. I would say the next place is to get people aligned on the same page, and to put in the practice of reviewing that data on a regular basis, whether it's daily or weekly. Have that culture, build that culture where the team agrees that that's the data that's being looked at to back up decisions, and to not solely depend on one person's gut feel, just because you've been doing it as a company that way for the last 10 years.
Mhm. Great. Okay. We do have a comment. Hey, Mandy, thank you for joining us. All right. So again, Dispatch Science works with carriers from all different sizes. So are there any habits that you see over and over again that are successful, maybe if, like at a different size versus another size, or even like per region?
So yes, I would say for sure we do have carriers and companies that operate the platform from very different sizes of organizations. From a habit perspective, I would say it's you have the tools. We give you the tools. Use them, learn them. So the companies that put the time in place, and give the people in the team the time to learn the tool, understand what it can do. Those guys are operating miles above companies that will kind of implement the tool and not give it a second thought after it's working. I think it's more about a culture of kind of continuous improvement and continuous learning. It's not because you put in a TMS that's it, you did it, you're done, there's nothing else to do, and now you just keep kind of repeating the same steps, same processes over and over again. I think it's those companies where people are encouraged to be curious and explore what the technology can do. Because keep in mind, the technology, like ours, it changes. Every 8 to 10 weeks, there's a release. There's new features, new capabilities. We're always looking and saying, okay, well, this is how we're doing it now. How can we do it better? And that for us has been a nonstop journey for the last almost 8, 9 years.
Mhm. Yeah, so with that, that's interesting that you mentioned that because technology is evolving and like, it's not like every year when we see each other at the conference, like it is 8 to 10 weeks, like you mentioned. So as final mile carriers are, seeking other solutions, what advice would you have? What questions should a final mile carrier be asking their technology provider?
Well, I would say that in this day and age, there's a big difference between a legacy product and a modern stack, a modern technology stack. And it's important to look under the hood. Yes, years in the industry is something, but having a modern platform, modern technology is a big, big differentiator. And that's what we see as probably one of the drivers of what leads companies to make a change. So I guess the first question would be to look under the hood, understand the technology, understand its architecture and capabilities, and know the difference between modern and cloud versus some of the products that have been there a long time. Trying to think if there's other kind of things I would recommend. The other one is flexibility. So the other factor is it's really impossible for anyone to be everything to everybody at the same time. So the other thing I think to look for is what is the flexibility of the product that you're looking at. If you're looking for something that meets your immediate needs today, and it does, great. But what happens tomorrow when that new customer signs and has this request and now wants 3 PODs and a phone call or whatever other convoluted thing comes your way? You want a product, you want a TMS, you want technology that has the flexibility to adapt to those types of things beyond what's there today.
Great takeaway. And that's why we're called the Customized Logistics and Delivery Association, because just because you're a final mile company doesn't mean that, two final mile companies could be even the same area, being a healthcare courier provider, but still be doing two different things. So that's a great takeaway. Don't just think where your business is now, but where you're looking to go, because from personal experience, I know it takes time to transition TMSs. So it's not a decision that you should take lightly. I mean, it's really something that your people are going to be working with every day.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it's the people for sure. I mean, you have to start with that. I don't think you could take the best technology and get it adopted in an organization whose people weren't ready to do the work to put it in and to learn.
hmm Well, as we wrap up, for a carrier that wants to make better use of the data they already have, what's one thing you would encourage them to start doing over the next 90 days?
So I would say I mentioned it earlier. Start by putting in a cadence, like a weekly operational review, let's say. So once a week you get together and you review those initial KPIs. Start small, 1, 2, 3 maybe, and every week sit down and say, okay, how are we doing on these particular metrics, or whether it's on-time performance or the other ones we talked about. And ideally, you want to pick something that is going to move the needle for you as a company. So something tied to profitability or service, and share that information with your leadership and ops teams. That's important. You want to get buy-in. You want everybody rowing in the same direction and understanding why you're asking the questions you're asking. And the next piece is that you have to now start get commitments from yourself and your team on taking action. If the numbers are telling you something, do something about it. If you think the numbers are wrong, then go back and look at the data you're collecting and improve what you're analyzing until everybody agrees that the numbers are now telling you the truth, and then use them as a guiding principle. And like I said, you don't need, this isn't about just investing in technology alone. That's just part of it. The other part is the culture and the people and putting in the time to say, yeah, we are committing to review this information on a weekly basis and doing it together. Um, I think the carriers that build that discipline now are the ones that are best positioned to compete, to grow, and to leverage AI. I mean, AI is gonna make a lot of that easier, but you have to have a foundation that you're going to use to leverage it. It's not just gonna like miraculously tomorrow make you a better company.
Absolutely. And that's when technology, once you do that, technology becomes an investment instead of just an expense. You got to use that data. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us, Arthur. If our audience would like to learn more about dispatch science or continue the conversation, where can people find you?
Check out our website, www.dispatchscience.com. Lorena, thank you very much. It was an honor and a pleasure to chat with you this afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. So thank you all for tuning in, whether you watched live or caught the replay. We'd appreciate it if you like something here, if you want to share with someone in the industry that could benefit from it. So next week we have another exciting episode. Although I feel like I sound like a broken record because I really am having so much fun like doing these little episodes. But next week we're going to be talking about the Final Mile Forum, which is CLDA's annual conference. I'm going to be interviewing Andrew Brady, who's our conference chair, and he's going to be giving us a little preview, a little sneak peek of what's in store for us February in Orlando. So once again, thank you all so much. And until next Friday, keep moving the final mile forward.